Human rights stakeholders and defenders have called for elimination of inequalities and violence against women and girls. The Executive Secretary of National Human Rights Commission (NHRC), Mr. Anthony Ojukwu, SAN, in his welcome address, made the call at a roadwork and speeches event to commemorate the International Human Rights Day. The news agency of Nigeria, NAN, reports that the International Human Rights Day is observed annually on the 10th of December in commemoration of the UN Declaration of Human Rights 73 years ago. According to Ojukwu, represented by Harry Obe, Director, Women and Children in the Commission, the event is to raise awareness on the issues of human rights in the country.
Each year, members of the United Nations embark on activism globally to raise awareness and make demands for call to action on ending violence against women and girls, promote human rights while also advocating and energizing actions towards ending violence against women and girls, which is perpetrated across class, culture, and geography. Violence against women exists in all countries and in all societies and is driven by a deep-seated belief that a woman is not equal to a man. 1 in 3 women worldwide experience physical and sexual abuse, mostly by an intimate partner. Violence against women and girls is a human rights violation, and the immediate and long-term physical, sexual, and mental consequences for women and girls can be devastating, including death. A woman's right to live free from violence is upheld by international agreements such as the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. These particular statements actually give credence to the theme of this year's event, which is reducing inequalities and advancing human rights. So it is a matter of great concern that violence against persons generally is one of the most widespread, ongoing, and upsetting human rights violations. The worst part is that it still manifests itself in physical, sexual, psychological forms comprising intimate partner violence, marital rape, and violence and other forms of harassment. The International Human Rights Day is observed to promote equality, peace, justice, freedom, and the protection of human dignity.
Similarly, Dr. Salamatu Husseini Suleiman, the chairperson governing council of the commission, harped on the importance of the theme of this year's celebration.
The theme of this year's celebration, which is equality, reducing inequalities and advancing human rights, is at the heart of human rights as it resonates with the very first expression in the preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it is re-echoed in Article 1 thereof, which states, "All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason, conscience, and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood." The theme further reminds us that we are part of the global call for action as we have joined the rest of the world to adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, where no one is left behind, towards achieving an all-inclusive action against inequality, poverty, and climate change. Today is indeed a testimony of our collective and continued commitment towards entrenching the respect for human rights and dignity in our country. Nigeria is currently battling with several challenges, especially in the area of corruption and security, which have impacted negatively on the enjoyment of human rights in the country. This phenomenon, which is exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, has deepened ethno-religious conflicts, armed banditry, kidnapping, cattle rustling, land disputes, and tensions between pastoralists and farmers. Not only has this led to loss of lives and displacements, it has also raised issues of inequality, poverty, peace, health, education, sexual violence, crime, exploitation, torture, water, sanitation and hygiene, to mention but a few. In this regard, We must all double our efforts to eliminate all forms of negative tendencies that will further hinder the realization of human rights and deepen inequalities. As we mark this important event, we must strengthen partnerships and advance the cause of human rights as a tool towards ensuring equality and the realization of sustainable development for all.
The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, represented by Zakir Sembanjo in his message to the event, lamented the state of the world.
Our world is at a crossroads. The COVID-19 pandemic, the climate crisis, and the expansion of digital technology into all areas of our lives have created new threats to human rights. Exclusion and discrimination are rampant. Public space is shrinking. Poverty and hunger are rising for the first time in decades. Millions of children are missing out on their right to education. Inequality is deepening, but we can choose a different path. 73 years ago today, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The principles set out in this simple declaration remain the key to realizing all human rights: civil, economic, cultural, social, and political, for all people everywhere. Recovery from the pandemic must be an opportunity to expand human rights and freedoms and to rebuild trust. Trust in the justice and impartiality of laws and institutions. Confidence that a life of dignity is within reach. Faith that people can get a fair hearing and resolve their grievances peacefully. The United Nations stands for the rights of every member of our human family. Today and every day, we will continue to work for justice, equality, dignity, and human rights for all.